Yay,
That
you did
was a
it.
little faster than I was expecting. I was like, oh my God.
Uh, I really, really miss Stephanie and having the professional like
I know, she had it down.
production. She had it down. Is so good at that. And I'm sad that we no longer get the privilege of her assistance. Um, I am so jet lagged still. I am telling
Yeah.
you, I have been back from London for a few days and I didn't get used to the time zone there, but I'm not used to the time zone here. So I don't know what time zone it is that I'm occupying, but it's somewhere over the Atlantic, I think. Um, but yeah, KubeCon was
When did you get back?
fantastic. I got back on Sunday. Do I have a lag or do you have a lag, Johnny? One of us has a lag.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. I think
Oh, that
I think it might be
hurts.
me.
Yeah, it's bad. It's order of magnitudes bad. Yeah, okay, yeah. Johnny's gonna disconnect, come back, and then we'll find out who the real culprit is. While he's gone, I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about the really cool things from KubeCon. Because there was a lot. First of all, KubeCon London was, I think, the largest one yet, over 12,500 people, which is a lot. This is a lot of people, friends. But there was some really like especially good keynotes this year. And I know Johnny's going to want to hear about these keynotes when he comes back. So he'll just have to watch the recording to learn about the keynotes, I guess. But yeah, so keynotes at KubeCon this year had a couple really memorable ones. But the one that I wanted to talk the most about was a really good one. It was it was a keynote. Oh, God, I wish I could remember his name. I'm so bad at names. Anyway, he is deaf and he speaks in sign language. And first of all of the keynotes were both captioned and had a little person doing the sign language interpretation down at the bottom of the screen so that you could see. But so he was deaf, so he was giving his keynote in American Sign Language, which was really fantastic. And so they had an interpreter for us who are hearing and don't speak American Sign Language or sign American Sign Language. Do not know American Sign Language as a language. We're going with that. So they actually had somebody, and she was doing speaking in English for those of us who needed it. And so, but the topic of the keynote was, by and large, like how AI can be leveraged to make like the community and like G meets and stuff like that more inclusive. So the demo they actually had and what they talked about was training like an LLM model to like see and interpret sign language live, and turn that into captions so that on a meeting like a Google Meet or something like that, the person signing could be understood. So they talked about they actually demoed it a little bit too. They had a recording of the demo. They talked about the mapping of the hands with computer vision, so that the computer could interpret what's happening. And they also talked about initially having trained the model on diagrams of sign language. And so in the diagrams of sign language, though, some of the letters, like specifically P and Q, are demonstrated off to the side. And I think I'm going to kind of do this like for American Sign Language, is like that is either P or Q. Again, not a sign language expert over here. And that is like the diagram, but that's actually not how it's signed. It's signed from like the front. And so, and like again, I don't actually know sign language. I'm so sorry. I should have actually refreshed my memory on the letters before this, but I was in other meetings and forgot. Anyway, so the point is, it was actually when you're signing it, it's from the front of the hand. So how it's actually going to be visually shown when somebody's actually signing versus how it's going to be represented in a diagram are not the same, right? Because the computer was looking for the palm to be visual, and the palm is not visible. in actual like real communication and to the camera. Johnny, I'm talking about American Sign Language being interpreted by LLM into captions live. This was a keynote at KubeCon. You can watch the recording.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so they talked about that and how they, that was like, then that was sort of the moment of going, okay, well, we're not going to be able to get very far with just training this on diagrams of American of signs. We're actually going to need to do the mapping. And so that's when they actually showed the mapping. If you've ever seen like one of those Disney Pixar films, like the after the film where they when you have like the DVD or you're watching it on streaming and they actually have the making of or whatever. My kids love these. I did not watch these things when I was a kid. My kids love these. I have watched so many of these. So the it was kind of similar to that. This behind the scenes look into how they were training the LLM to understand American Sign Language. And so he actually showed how he had his hand and all of the little points to which they were mapping the hand motions, and so that was what the computer had to track. And then one of the other challenges I think was and is, I think they're making it, they're improving it, but it still has time to go, is in the transitions between signs. So as their hands are moving, that could potentially look like another sign. So that creates visual noise. And there's a lot of other things that create visual noise that they have to get the LLM to account for as well. This was not a very long keynote, by the way. It was so informative, though. It was so cool. And I think that they have the recordings of the keynotes. If they don't have them up already, they will have them up on the CNCF YouTube channel. I highly recommend this keynote. This was such a good one. And so they talked about visual noise, right? And how visual noise impacts the computer's ability to track and interpret what the hands are doing in order to do the caption. So it's an incredibly interesting project that's happening within the CNCF community. It was really cool to see the demo. I mean, obviously you can tell from, in the demo thing, he's signing very slowly. I'm sure that has to do with the visual noise and the computer's ability to cope with those transitionary shapes of the hand that they were discussing. So obviously it has such a long way to go, but this is the thing for me where it was what an amazing thing to see happening, right? This is as somebody who is, not deaf, not mute, with vision, I have glasses, but I can see. This is not something that I would have anything other than the lowest level of awareness of. So having that up on the keynote, as one of the keynotes, in front of all of us to really get an understanding of that, I think this is such a fantastic application of AI. I think that is so cool. That was my favorite keynote. And the day one keynotes especially were all so fantastic for KubeCon this year. Just all of them were so good. There was, again, terrible at names, somebody who is, obviously a member of the cloud native computing community, but he works at eBay as kind of a head of SRE. And he talked about very pragmatically, what AI is good at and what AI is not good at. Right. And so kind of some of that insights as well. So really, really fantastic keynotes. I'm not going to go in depth into all of them, although I have a ton of notes, because I don't think I can represent them as well. But I just really wanted to bring the AI translation of American Sign Language one top of mind to everybody, because that is fantastic. And that is just helping make really amazing strides in the way we can communicate with each other real time, regardless of things like language or, physical barriers to those communications. Super cool. Please go watch that keynote. Yeah, 10 of 10. Amazing keynote. What else? So that was day one, right? There were a lot of days. If we go way back, right, to day, I guess day -1, Maintainer Summit. There's at KubeCon, there's historically been a Kubernetes maintainer summit. This is something that I used to attend as a Kubernetes Code of Conduct committee member. Just the socio-technical aspect still makes you a contributor. So now I'm on the CNCF Code of Conduct committee and not the Kubernetes one. Still attends, and they've also changed it now. It's all CNCF maintainers instead of just the Kubernetes maintainers. This is a really positive change, by the way. It significantly increased, obviously, the people in the rooms, and made this very, like there were some new faces for some of us who's been going to those maintainer summits in the past. So that was great. Way more talks, way more types of talks. The technical oversight committee, which is a part of the CNCF, which kind of helps to guide the way CNCF projects kind of like go and develop and evolve within the CNCF. I don't even want to represent what they do because I think I probably only covered a very small percentage really of it. But they had like they had a Ask Me Anything, and they had a, like brainstorming session to get people who are, active maintainers and contributors like in the room to like talk about how to make things better. I will confess, I didn't go to that session because I went to another session on security. And this is where my jet lag really kicks in, because I took a bunch of pictures of the slides because I knew I was not going to remember anything. And I surely do not. All I remember was leaving that session thinking, wow, that was a really good session. I'm glad I took pictures. The good news is these sessions were recorded, right? So, and some of these recordings from the various KubeCon days and co-located events are already coming up. I think almost all of the ArgoCon ones are up. I saw quite a few of them were up on the CNCF YouTube channel last night. So definitely there's some really good ones about scaling Argo CD and so forth. We may have to talk about some of those on the stream later. And then of course, Argo 3 came out kind of all in this last, technically I think it came out like earlier this week, but like it was like code frozen and ready to go while KubeCon was happening. So they also were talking in some of the sessions on the, like the product overview things, they were talking about Argo 3. So that is,
that's cool.
Argo, yeah. So that's all cool. So Argo CD 3, I don't want to say Argo 3 because there's of course Argo workflows and Argo CD, and these are different things. And if you don't know, Argo workflows was the original. Like that was actually the Argo thing out of, we'll say it's out of Intuit. Technically, it's out of a company that Intuit acquired, but I forget the name of that company. That's about as good as my history memory goes. Anyhow, so Argo workflows is about like data transformation pipelines and so on and so forth. Can be used for a lot of other cool things too, as anything technically could be, but that's the big thing. And we've had folks who are maintainers of that project from PipeKit on this stream in the past. It's been a while. Probably overdue to have them back again to talk about what's been happening in Argo workflows. But yeah, so all of those are up. I didn't get to go to any of the ArgoCon talks. That's not true. I went to the one about Andrew Block and panel that I can't remember because I'm really bad at names. This is a trend you're going to notice. I'm just so bad at names. Then Andy Block from Red Hat has been working on using OCI artifacts for more than like for artifacts as opposed to just images, right? This was actually last year ArgoCon. Him, Christian Hernandez, Dan Garfield, and I had a session on that where I emceed it, and they were like, and asked them questions and so forth about the initiative and the effort. So this was kind of an update on that and like where that lives today. I actually only caught about the second half of that session. Unfortunately, they had failed to pay adequate dues to the demo gods. So of course the demo didn't, I think it was a pre-recorded demo too. It's just the internet at that point in time was so slow that the pre-recorded demo wouldn't load, which just, it happens. They did get the demo up at a certain point, and questions were asked in the meanwhile. So like they handled it super gracefully, not surprising. But that was a good session. And I still think that that's a very cool like direction that we're taking OCI and going, in artifacts versus container images. So I did talk to Andy Block. He's going to come back on this show. We talked about it last year. He's going to come back on and talk about what's going on with that initiative and its direction. Kind of the 1 year later update. I love these kind of emerging technology things that pop up from time to time.
So with using OCI, is it mainly to where they can start signing it with cosign and start tracking that type of thing, like keeping signatures on it, so that way, like for your S bombs and that type of approach, or is it more just uh what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of uh normalizing OCI for everything versus like just individual components.
I think a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Okay.
It also helps to satisfy some of the challenges that we see in air-gapped environments.
Hmm.
Right, because every Kubernetes environment has a container registry, but not every Kubernetes environment has access to GitHub or a Git repo, right? So some of those things, same things that we've seen with air-gapped environments, this is intended to. My cat is stream bombing right now. This has been a long time since she's done this. Hello, cat. You just do the prerequisite hold cat up to camera thing.
Yes.
She is doing the cat thing where her food dish is not empty. Her food dish is mostly empty. And therefore, it is an emergency. And she must make herself very well known to me because her
Things are
food
important.
dish is almost empty, Johnny. Almost.
She could go hungry.
She could go hungry. She might starve. Yeah, no, please don't walk on my keyboard. This cat is very old, by the way. She has no teeth, and she is 16.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So when you guys see her around, just know that she is a very ancient old lady.
Old lady. That's awesome.
Yeah. So she
Seems
has
calm.
completely settled in. I'm just gonna be stuck holding her like this now. And her name is Amenti. Nobody asked, but everybody wanted to know. Amenti, yeah. So yeah, the main place that I spent on day 0 events, though, for the co-located events was I was at the platform engineering day pieces, right? Because obviously that was where I was speaking this time. And I was talking to my co-presenters and the co-authors of the book that I wrote, Platform Engineering for Architects. I obviously did not write that by myself, hence the mention of co-authors. That was with Andreas Gabner and Max Klobuchar. These are folks that I know from around the CNCF and the Kubernetes community. Really great guys. We were all noticing that platform engineering was sort of the unofficial theme of the entire conference. Actually, not even just the fact that there was a platform engineering day. Platform engineering was talked about a lot in the main conference track as well. Kind of that idea of Kubernetes as the unified abstraction layer for platforms. And then all the things you can do on top of it, whether that is backstage or something else, or just pulling together the CNCF projects that make sense for you and your team into a platform, whatever that looks like, right? Platform engineering is very like center stage, top of mind for a lot of the industry right now. And of course, GitOps is a big thing that plays into that because you can't have platform without GitOps. I mean, you can have a platform without GitOps. You absolutely can, but like, why?
Why? Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Are we done now? Thank you. She's done. Yeah. So that was cool, and I think the thing that I noticed, what we all noticed, was that the theme of platform engineering and like what we talked about in our book, right? It's like what is our subtitle? I'm gonna actually just directly read it. Crafting modern platforms as a product, right? That idea that your platform is a product, and you need to kind of like treat it like so. That was very, very pervasive. So it's kind of one of those things where some folks came up to Max and I after our talk, you were like, hey, we've been saying all of these same things. Like, where did it occur to you to say these same things? And I think what we all agreed on was the concept of platform engineering. We've been here before, right? And Johnny, you and I have talked about this. We've been here before. As an industry, we're solving old problems in new ways, but the problems themselves are not new. It's the technologies that are new. So, it's kind of like when we're talking to people who are, and most people who came up to talk to us after are like pretty seasoned in their career. Like I've got about 15 years. I think most of the people we were talking to had really similar 15, 20, 25 years of experience, industry experience. And kind of that, like, how are we all saying the same things verbatim without talking to each other? And it really is that we are solving old problems yet again. Like yet another approach to software delivery is really what's happening here. And I think the unifying other piece besides Kubernetes as an abstraction layer is everyone talking about how to do that cultural revolution part in their companies. Max puts it very well, the idea of challenging Conway's law, right? Don't build something that just reinforces the way you communicate, reinforces the way you've already been doing things. Challenge that, innovate, and do something that like really makes change. That's an engineering problem, but it's also a social problem, like the socio-technical aspect of it, right? And everybody could agree that this was the hardest part. Number one question I got, regardless of whether it was a session I gave at the Maintainer Summit as Code of Conduct Committee, or the session I gave at Platform Engineering as, you know, about platform engineering, was how do we resolve conflicts? How do we work together with a bunch of really strong opinions in the room, right? It was really interesting. This was, and I talked to other people who had really some, like, any people who do leadership things across the CNCF, across like technical oversight committee, across, you know, governing boards and so on. And everybody who's in leadership anywhere right now is being asked these questions. How do we get people agreeing and working together when they all have really strong opinions? My recommendation for that to the person who asked me and to anybody is, just like I would tell you to interview your users who want to use the platform, if you've got engineers with really strong opinions about how the platform should behave, do a bit of an interview on those engineers, right? Approach that with curiosity, ask a lot of questions. It's you know, get more of an idea of their reasoning and so forth. And, you know, there could be like something there, or you could get to the heart of the issue that may be causing the misalignment, and then hopefully maybe move forward. So that was like overarching thing is we have a huge community of people really eager to work together, both within the community and within their coworkers on the day-to-day. The socio-technical things are very real, and when you have a conference this big, I think people really talk about it in a way they don't talk about it necessarily at work. That's really powerful. Again, community, super good. And yeah, but so
it's a safe place, though, right?
It's a safe place, you know. I mean, within don't be kind, right? Be a kind person. It costs you exactly $0.00 to be kind. But especially at KubeCon, be kind. And since if we all are approaching our attendance at KubeCon with kindness, then it makes it very easy to have these conversations. There was like a Min Tech meetup I went to at that was hosted by the CNCF, and one thing that I talked to with my little table, breakout table, was like a mentor can be peer-to-peer, and it doesn't have to be somebody who works with you, right? That was my last like unofficial talk I gave to that entire room. I'm going to give it to our viewers here because I think it's really important information most people don't have. Socio-technical again. You need a mentor in your career, and you need a sponsor. And these are very different things. And so your mentor is your safe person who is on your side, right? So like my relationship with my mentor is, this is the person I can complain to, and then they challenge me to get past my complaints. They challenge me to overcome. They brainstorm with me. They hold me accountable, but they are always on my side, right? This is a safe person for me. A sponsor is typically a person, and your mentor doesn't have to, one, be in a like higher position than you. Like if you're a senior engineer, they don't need to be a principal engineer. You can do peer-to-peer. You can actually, like, technically speaking, if somebody's just like, doesn't matter what their like quote unquote level is, if they have skills you do not have and you need to learn those skills, even if they're more junior than you are, they could also be your mentor, right? A mentor doesn't even have to work at the same company as you or on the same team. It can really be anybody whom can be on your side, challenge you where appropriate, brainstorm with you as needed, right? Whereas your sponsor is a person who is in a position of power over you within your organization. And it's their job to get you and your ideas front and center of people who need to hear them or who you want to hear them, right? So there's a degree to which they're intended to be your champion, but your sponsor is not your safe person, right? Your sponsor, like how you approach and talk to your sponsor, work that out with your mentor, right? Your sponsor is not your safe person. Your sponsor is somebody that you need to maintain a level of professionality with. Now, mentors can do sponsorship behaviors. Sponsors can do mentorship behaviors, but these are two different people with two different like relationship paradigms, and you need to define your relationship with both of these people. So you and your mentor should be working on things that are defined and agreed upon. You and your sponsor should be doing things that are defined and agreed upon, like have those define the relationship conversations with these people so that you were all on the same page. So that was something that I was told a lot of people had not been told at any point in their career. So I'm making sure, yeah, you never told it either?
No,
Okay.
the mentor thing, yeah, but not the sponsor thing. I thought that was like an AA thing.
Yeah. Fair. Yes, your professional sponsor is definitely different. There are lots of types of sponsors. But yeah, okay. So you all heard it here. This, if you take nothing away from the KubeCon recap, I learned this was things that people hadn't been told. Actually, was not something that I had been directly told either. It was something I sort of figured out when somebody asked me kind of, oh, do you have a sponsor? And I was like, what is a sponsor? I have a mentor. What is a sponsor? Right. I went and figured it out.
Mhm.
So offhanded question turned into this whole thing for me. And now I'm making sure everybody knows in your career advancement, you need a sponsor and a mentor. Define those relationships, stay within the boundaries of those relationships. If your mentor is not being your person who's your safe person on your side, go get a new one. Like that's my advice to you. So apparently a room of a few dozen people needed to hear that. I'm hoping that people who needed to hear it now have heard it as well outside of that room of
So,
people.
so is the sponsor like, can it be like your manager? Is that typically like your
Yeah,
manager that would be your sponsor? Okay,
it, it,
okay.
it can be your manager. I'd say more typically, well, it depends a little bit on the organizational size as
Mhm.
well. More typically, that's going to be more like your skip level or an executive at the
Oh, okay.
company.
Gotcha.
So skip level, like my manager's manager, right, is my
Mhm.
skip level. And so it may be somebody who's like a skip level or an executive. So if you have an associate manager as your manager, they would have a senior manager over them, and then there'd be like a director over them. And then that director would be the person who may be doing the sponsorship because they typically have just a wider sphere of influence than a manager or a senior manager.
Gotcha.
I
Mm.
I do report up to, well, okay, this, red hat, so we change managers all the time. Right now, my manager is a senior manager, but my I will be getting, I in the past, I don't know, who knows what happens with managers, but in the past, I've also reported to directors. It's just, whatever. It literally doesn't matter. My managers have all been fantastic. That's really all I care about. Every single one of them, amazing.
Yeah.
But and in the future, I may report to somebody else again. Who knows, right? Doesn't matter. But so then, regardless of whether or not I'm reporting to a senior manager or a director, the person that I might look to being a sponsor would be somebody who is a director or a senior director, maybe. And that's just because of the size of our organizations, because we're an
Mhm.
enterprise company, right? It could be very different. It could be just a normal manager at a very small company where they have more flat organizational structures. It could actually be a team lead, even. So if you are saying things and your team lead likes them and your team lead needs to get you in front of management, again, flatter organizational structures, then their team lead would be being your sponsor. Um,
Okay.
so it doesn't, it's just somebody who has the authority and influence to get you and support you in your ideas and get them in front of people who will listen.
Okay. Yeah, I think especially in that, well, I mean, even here, right? I think like it's more like an unspoken role. You know what I mean? Like it's more so like, oh, Hillary's not my sponsor, but Hillary's, just as an example, we're talking about, oh, I know who you need to talk to, and then you start
Yeah.
that bump. Yeah, I think we do that a lot in consulting. It's definitely part of like, at least it was when I was there. It was part of that culture. Like, hey,
Yes.
Hillary's kicking, almost did it. Hillary's kicking butt over in consulting. You know, she's doing this, this, and this. You know, we need to put her up on a pedestal really quick. Let her go present it to everybody else, and show off a little bit. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't. I've just never heard it called like a I've never heard it labeled a sponsor. I just thought that was what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, like bragging on where we work just a little bit. I think we have a really good culture around these things. Sort of that is like just part of how we do things.
Hmm.
A really great example of that is when I was brand new. People would say, "Oh, have you met so and so yet?" And I say no, and then they would say, "Oh, you'll love them, they," and then something nice about that person.
Hmm.
And I literally asked, like, was there like that wasn't in my new hire orientation. Is there like some second new hire orientation around here that like teaches everybody this behavior? No, it's just something that gets generally modeled and people pick up on it because it's modeled. So
Hmm.
my approach to mentorship is not only do I work on whatever my mentee and I have wanted to work on, but there is an opportunity to get them in front of somebody and do that sponsorship behavior, I will do it. But also if they have curiosity around things, I will make sure to introduce them to people who are experts on that, because I am by far not an expert on all the things. So if you tell me, oh, I'm working on this right now, but I'm really interested in cybersecurity. And I would go get you introduced to somebody who is like got a lot of experience and knowledge on cybersecurity, right? That's my approach to mentorship. Is I never try to be the only person my mentee talks to. I try to make sure they're having the right conversations with the right people. That's kind of that bleed over into sponsorship behaviors, but it's not necessarily because they have ideas. Sometimes that's just making sure they're learning the right things or the things they need to learn to be successful. So that's more of the mentorship thing. Sponsorship is more of like, I've identified somebody who I think this is not like, you should, if you're in a position of leadership, you should always have like a succession plan, is the advice I've been given. So I've identified somebody who I think should, a couple somebodies who I think should be in my like succession plan. If I fall off of a bridge, they should be the next team lead. Then so I make sure to engage in sponsorship behaviors with these people. So making sure that their ideas are getting in front of the right people, making sure that they have the opportunity to become better known, expand their influence, right? It's my job to give them that, give them those opportunities and do that sponsorship activities with them. So, but they don't come to me with their problems. Probably like, not that I wouldn't want to try to help them, but again, they have a mentor for that. This
Hmm.
is about, they come to me with solutions, is kind of the situation. And that's great. And so that's the relationship aspect. I spent a little bit more time talking about it than I intended to. But I hope that's helpful to anybody who ever watches this, because I think it's career advice everybody needs and most people don't get.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing for me, especially since like I said, I'd never heard it labeled like that before. And like what you're saying with your approach to mentorship, I think like all of us have our own way of doing things. Like for me, I'm very organic. Like I'm not organized at all. Like it's if you're looking for somebody that is like tracking meeting notes in a spreadsheet and like keeping up with everything, like I'm not that person. I'm not that mentor. Like but if you're looking for somebody that you can come and talk to and try and get professional advice, or like, hey, I'm working on this thing and I'm stuck, or hey, I'm working on this thing. I definitely, especially being in this position with one this live stream and then asking OpenShift admin live stream, like we are intermixed with a lot of people, right? And so like
Yeah.
we know where a lot of those buttons are to go push for them, and being in a position now where it's like, hey, okay, that's gonna be Hillary that does that, or that's gonna be Andy that does it, like, and then setting that meeting up or setting that conversation up. That's probably my favorite part about all this. Talking to all the
Yes.
people, which I never thought in a million years I'd say that I enjoy talking to a bunch of different people, but like when people are like, hey, I'm trying to do this, I need some help, and then bridging that connection for them, and then that helping them actually get that thing figured out. It's awesome.
It's pretty
So
good.
it
Yeah, it
is
is pretty
awesome.
good. But yeah, like, okay, so that was just like days. What would we got? We got through Maintainer Summit. We got through co-located events, right? ArgoCon, Platform Engineering Day. There was also Telco, and I don't know. There were a bunch of co-located events. I honestly, the schedule was so full of things I wanted to attend that I attended almost nothing because I froze. I was like, what do I even attend? All of these things are going to be available for recording later. Like, what do I even do? I did have the great
Analysis
opportunity to hang out with,
paralysis.
yeah, that was true. I had the opportunity to hang out with 2 of our viewers, which was really great. So 2 of our longtime viewers came and said hi. One of them gave me little like candies and some small presents, and the other one just was like, "Hey, wait a minute, are you Hilliary?" And I was like, "Hello." And
Which
then
one?
remember when I said I was bad at names?
Oh, was Our Hope 9 though? Okay,
No, our Hope
that's
9 was not there. I was
okay.
asked if he was there. I was asked if he was at KubeCon, and I was like, I have no idea. He didn't mention it to me.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. If he was there and I did not see him, I will be very sad. Our Hope
It's probably
9.
illegal. He's probably like Wilson from Home Alone, or is it Home Alone? Not Home Alone. Wilson from Home Improvement, where all you can see is the top
Yeah.
of his face.
All
Like
you see at
he's
the
just
top of
like
his
this mystery
face.
character. Yeah.
Right.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm done. I'm done.
No, you're fine. I did get an opportunity to pop into OpenShift Commons for a minute, which is the first time I'd ever been able to go to OpenShift Commons. That's a cool event. That's a cool event. That was a really interesting opportunity to see some of our users talk about what they're doing. And other users are there, right? So then there are like our customers talking to each other and getting that same kind of thing of like, oh wait, well, how did you solve this problem with that though? And then they talk about what their approach was or what have you, right? That's really, really cool.
Mhm.
And of course, there's like the celebrations. We have the OpenShift. Well, I guess it's not OpenShift superheroes. You know, we give the people the capes and everything.
Yep.
That's really fun. The pictures from that are really, really, really good. I almost said cute, and then I realized a bunch of like grown-ups maybe don't want to be called cute, but it's pretty cool. I like the capes a lot. And yeah, there was I didn't get to go to hardly any. I really only got to be there for like a couple of minutes. But yeah, there was security related talks there and all kinds of cool things. So that was really cool that I got to finally see an OpenShift Commons. She's back. Hello, cat. Round 2. This is my life with her always. Yeah, OpenShift Commons was really cool. I got to meet some of our users, just like very briefly, and then I was out again. Very, very busy conference this time. Busy. Everybody I talked to said this was the busiest KubeCon that yet, and that makes sense because over 12,500 attendees, that would do that to you.
Oh dang. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was an insane crush of people. Honestly, it really was. And so yeah, that was that. One of the really cool sessions I did go to was also about like the current state of open telemetry and Prometheus and like the like integration. And I loved their kind of approach to it where they were like, who here has found it like as a good experience? And like very few hands go up and they're like, yeah, we know. You know, like define good, right? That was a really, really great talk. So they talked about some of the like some of the incompatibilities, showed some of the like current state. Here's what we have done to make this better. Here's our current state of problems. Here's where we're going to improve this. So there's really a good roadmap on OTel and Prometheus working together. I think they're taking a very sane approach. They're taking a very iterative approach, right? They said, we made this better in this way. This is not the final state. This is just, you know, a step along our path. I really loved that. Yeah, they were very clear, like, you know, it is what it is right now. It's still got a lot of room to grow. Here's how we're growing it. Here's where you can track that growth and how you can get involved. Like that was a really, really great session. And that session was so full. I think these rooms held about 800 people. Not all of them, but that particular one did. That room was so full that CNCF like staff and organizers were asking us all to slide in, fill in all the empty chairs. So many people were trying to stand that they were like literally escorting them to all of the empty seats that they could find because it was beyond capacity.
Wow.
So obviously a lot of people really care about how OTel and Prometheus interact and like where that's going, which makes sense. Right? Like that checks out to me.
Yeah.
I care. That's why I was in the session. So yeah, that was a really good session. Their slides are up. So if you did not go to KubeCon, there's Shed or Sked. I don't know how you say it. I guess Sked because it's short for schedule. but I don't like Sked. That sounds weird. But anyway, so Sked is where all the sessions are listed and people upload their slides to it. They had all of their slides available. And this was one, let's see if I can find it, or maybe Johnny's trying to find it.
Yep, I'm looking for it.
Cool. They had all of their slides already uploaded, like responsible adults. I was not that type of responsible adult, just let the record show. And the slides were very comprehensive on that particular one in terms of what's going on. I doesn't have their speakers notes, but honestly, like, while they expanded a little bit on what's on the slides, it pretty much, if you read the slides, you're going to have a really good concept of what they said. Everything is there. And that is not how I do my slides, but now that I'm glad that they have done theirs that way, it's making me reconsider my approach to slides too. There's pros and cons to each approach. 10 of 10, really good talk. I absolutely recommend it. And yeah, I think the last thing I haven't talked about was like just the swag, which was absolutely off the charts. I think we all know that we go to KubeCon for the swag. At least I do.
I 100%.
100%. So first of all, I got lots of great socks. I do not pack socks with me when I go to KubeCon, which is very like, I don't know, it's maybe a little bit brave on my part. I rely on running around and grabbing all of the free socks from the booths. I got a bunch of great socks. I got a couple of really excellent t-shirts as well. But I keep that a little bit less because I have a lot of t-shirts. But yeah, definitely 10 of 10 socks. I apparently missed out on a bunch of plushies. I don't know. Again, it was an overwhelming amount of people, and the vendor hall, there was two of them. It was like there was a north and a south, and they were both massive. So I somehow missed out on a bunch of great plushies, and I'm a little bit bummed. That's okay.
Is that unusual for the EU KubeCon? Because I thought that like maybe I misunderstood, or maybe I just wanted to hear it that way because that's what I wanted to hear. But like I the way I understood it is like the KubeCon, their expos are a little bit smaller. The European KubeCons, they're a little bit smaller. They're more focused on like it's not so many companies that are there. It's more presentation, more technical versus like where in America it's very expo-ish, right? Like there's a lot of focus on the expos and the different booths and stuff like that. Sounds like it kind of like switched up a little bit.
I think it's about the same, honestly. I think typically there's just fewer people in the exposition hall compared to like overall attendees at the European ones. I don't know the exact number count because like that is so not where I'm involved. But it definitely felt like a really big vendor turnout to me.
Awesome.
When I think about other European KubeCons I've been to. And the real cool thing that they added two really neat things that I haven't had. Well, I'm sorry, they added one neat thing that they hadn't had, and they've changed something. So there's always the project pavilion, which is where all the CNCF projects are. Yep. This year, that was very much in the center of one of the vendor halls. So that was awesome, by the way, because it kind of just, instead of being a little bit of an area off to the side or whatever, it was like dead center, the whole length of the hall. So you kind of had to pass through it. So that meant that the project pavilion was very, very busy. And a lot of people were getting the opportunities to really, stumble upon that in a way that they hadn't, like before you had to really know to seek it out. So that reorganization of that and that layout of that was great. And so the project pavilion was very, very busy. Like you could almost not even get close to some of the booths. Like when I went by the Argo booth to like try to say hi to Christian Hernandez and just give him that quick hug that I always get, I had to wait like 10 minutes, which is fantastic. And then of course, I started helping him answer questions because as one does. So the amount of activity in the project pavilion, I think from my perspective of having been to a few of these was higher because of the better placement. And the other thing that they did, which was new, is they had a demo pavilion. So at the project pavilion, there's always been a demo pavilion where the projects get to demo the project, and is very focused on just the open source aspects, regardless of what company the person is presenting from. It's about the community. This time they gave the opportunity for people from the vendor hall to do reserve time at a demo pavilion and to really demo their happenings. So there was a bunch of demos there. I know that we had at least one on OpenShift virtualization there.
Nice.
Yeah, we had a lot of OpenShift virtualization questions at the booth, apparently. And like very small period of time I volunteered for booth duty, somebody asked that and I was like, I don't know. I don't know anything. I know how to answer questions about OpenShift, but I don't know how to answer questions about OpenShift Vert. So don't worry, we found them somebody. All their questions were answered. But yeah, so we did have a pretty well attended OpenShift virtualization session apparently at the demo stage or whatever they did. So that was new. And so that from like an organizational standpoint was really good. And so I got to see, again, kind of having to, as I'm walking around collecting my socks, having to kind of snake back and forth through the project pavilion a few times. I got to see more. The project pavilion felt bigger to me as well. I felt like there were more projects in the project pavilion than there had been in the past. And that does track because I know that they have significantly improved how projects get accepted into CNCF. And to be in the project pavilion, you don't have to be a graduated project. You could be an incubating project. So I think that the number of like CNCF projects like from year over year is increasing, which is really fantastic as we see more companies donating things. And so the project pavilion was very, very big, very, very busy. You could spend an entire KubeCon, honestly, just going from project to project and learning more information about it. And like when I initially had questions on a couple KubeCons ago on like Cilium and eBPF, that was where I went. I went over to the project pavilion and I was like, hey, can you tell me more about this? Like, this is like networking is my worst subject in school. I didn't go to college, but so that's a joke. Networking is my worst subject. Like where do I get started? Like, how can we like help this be approachable for me? Right. And the people the maintainers who are working the project pavilion projects, typically they are the maintainers, are so fantastic about that. So the project pavilion is, like I said, you could spend your entire KubeCon just at the project pavilion, probably, doing the hallway track. And it would be a very good use of time and everything, especially because a lot of that stuff's not recorded. But the talks are recorded. The Universal KubeCon experience, I heard a couple of people talking about it as I was wandering around, and this is always the way. People are like, how are all the talks I want to go to at the same time? Yes. It doesn't matter what tracks you are interested in. Somehow all of the ones you want to go to the most are at the same time.
Yep.
But I will say, because I was so jet lagged, I never adjusted to the time zone. I was sleepwalking my way through the entire conference, honestly. So my memory of this is all very hazy.
Yeah.
One of the sessions I went to, I thought I wouldn't learn anything, and then I learned something. And it was because when I looked at the session overview, it was like stuff like I'm pretty well informed on all this stuff. And then there was a secret slide that wasn't covered in their synopsis, and it like was like, oh my gosh, today I learned. I don't remember which one it was, but that was a really fantastic moment. If I go back through my phone and my pictures, I'll find it and I'll remember it. Sometimes you leave these sessions with more of an emotion than you do a specific learning. God, that's horrible. I wish I could remember which session that was. I attended only a handful of sessions, so you would think this would be easy, but I was like...
Yeah, it's terrible. Jet lag it's honestly probably one of the worst things that you can go through. Like, I mean, there's worse things. But like when you're talking about like travel and being sick or something like that, it's the equivalent of being sick as far as I'm concerned.
Your brain has a really hard time. Like the runtime memory is fine, but the write to disk fails.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I start swapping after a while. Like
yeah. No, it's not good. It's no good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the big thing is I actually did not see, at least at times that I could make it to, any sessions on templating. And I thought that was really ironic because I was really searching them out and there weren't any. Like there wasn't again, at times I could go to. It's not that there weren't any. At times I could attend. There were not any. So we're going to have to try and catch those recordings. But I did talk to some folks about some things. And so I think we will have a few different guests joining us over the next. KubeCon is where I line up 90% of our guests for the year. Honest, not even a joke. 90% of our guests for the year get lined up at KubeCon. I am. That's why I spend so much time on the hallway track. It's like, who can I con to come on for an hour and teach me something? Where is that person?
I'm gonna take advantage. I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna copy your thing there when I go to a summit and try and do the same thing because like
Yes.
I just went. I was a nerd the last time that I went like to the one in Salt Lake. I just went and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this sounds cool. Like, what is it? Tell me about it. Well, what do you want to know? Like, I don't know. I've never even heard of this. So why don't you tell me everything from the beginning?
Start from the top. Let's go. Yeah. So how can I use Tecton to create automated namespaces and install operators like GitOps? Tecton doesn't write like that. I wouldn't, is the answer to that question. I wouldn't. Don't do that. It's the short answer. Typically you would use Tecton to deliver, to like create a manifest, but it actually doesn't do the delivery, right? Argo CD does do the delivery. If you want to do something like that, I think probably Terraform, OpenTofu would be like configure your cluster and get it, have something to set up the thing, all the things automatically. But like, yeah, you're not going to do that with Tecton.
You shouldn't do it with. You
You
definitely
shouldn't do it with
shouldn't
Tecton.
do it. Yeah. So, and just to answer the question directly, like, yes, you shouldn't. But if you were going to, you could just run like a OC command inside the Tecton. I don't even know if there's
Yeah.
a like a task or a cluster task. Well, no, not a cluster task anymore,
I
but
mean, so
there might
Tecton,
be a
right?
task that does it.
Yeah, you might be able to have a task runner or something, but like essentially it just it creates a bunch of Kubernetes jobs, and the Kubernetes jobs do what you tell them to do. And yeah, you could do that with a kube job, I guess. But don't.
Yeah, because your service account would have to have cluster admin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's bad juju for.
Yeah, don't do that. You can, you should not. Definitely really curious why you want to do that with Tecton. I have follow-up questions. I've been just you don't. That's my recommendation. Don't do that. My cat is back. You guys can't see her, but she's back now. She's a little ball on my lap. I forgot what I was saying before the question came in. It was a good question though. I don't remember. Johnny, what was I saying? Oh, that I line up our speakers for the year at KubeCon.
Oh, yes.
Yep, that's what I do. So I was very successful. I got people who absolutely volunteered to come on. So Andy Block said he would be happy to come on to talk more about the OCI artifacts versus OCI like for images, like current state, continued roadmap, etc. So that'll be a fun thing to look into again, since it's evolved over the last year since we've done that. We will get somebody, probably Dan Garfield, or maybe somebody else. He said he would help us find somebody to come on and talk about Argo 3, right? We technically are a GitOps stream, and technically like that means OpenShift GitOps, and therefore that is supposed to mean Argo CD. But you know, that's not what we actually do here. We just nerd out about a bunch of stuff. So, but yeah, we will get someone to come on in a few weeks to talk about Argo 3. It's going to be quite a bit of a delay because we only have one more. We only have one more stream, really. Maybe we only have 2 more streams before Summit, and I think Anyway, so there's gonna be a bit of a break for Summit, and then it's gonna be the schedule this year. You and I had a lot of travel this year, so already our schedule's off to being a mess. And then still working on who I can con into coming on and talking about Customize, which is not templating, but still. And working on I've got some kind of feelers out about like getting somebody on who really knows crossplane, and some of those other things that we've had some interest in. So KubeCon is where I line these things up, where I start meeting the correct people and putting bugs in the correct ears about, hey, you love public speaking, right? So that's typically how it goes. So yeah, KubeCon, really good. Again, if the thing if you do nothing else, if you pay no attention to anything else from KubeCon, like from the KubeCon recaps and the recorded sessions and anything this year, go find the one with the sign language to captions. It was so good. It was so informative. It was like from a nerd perspective, you got a couple really cool things happening with computer vision and LLMs, and no matter how you feel about AI in like a general sense, that is really neat. That is really, really neat. And if you have the time and capability to get involved into something like this, I would absolutely 10 of 10 encourage you to do that, because that is really, really cool. Yeah, I don't know. Johnny, did I forget anything else? I just talked for an hour about my trip. That's really what we did here. But if you've never been to a KubeCon, I strongly encourage people to go. It's a really awesome opportunity.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's like when you're mentioning the Project Pavilion, and I was just thinking of like in Chicago, it was in the very back. You remember
Yes.
that? It was in
Yeah.
like the very, very back of the thing. So like you'd gone through all the different projects or like all the different companies and vendors and booths and stuff like that, and then you finally hit the project booth or project pavilion in the back, and it was kind of like, all right, this is a stretch. It's like way out
It
there.
was a ghost town, right?
Yeah, and then in Salt Lake, it was kind of a mix where it was in the middle. So there's a hard left, and it was like right at that pivot point. So like when you're making the left, so like as you're making the left into like the I don't want to say the smaller vendors, but like the not the not Red Hats and IBMs and stuff like that vendors.
Yeah.
Um, there was like the Project Pavilion kind of off to the side, and so it was a little bit closer. I'm glad to hear that they moved it to the middle because it seems like that should be the focal point, right? And then you branch off that, so that's cool.
Yeah. No, that was absolutely fantastic. It was so cool. And yeah, and like I said, I think that was I saw a lot of things happening at the Project Pavilion. So they also had a lounge area right next to it. And so people sat down and were like, hey, and like including myself, because I contribute occasionally to the CNCF glossary. And so I contribute to the CNCF glossary most of anything because I self-taught, and I self-taught myself because of really good docs and really good docs writers. And so the thing I care the most about in any open source project is the success of the docs.
Hmm.
That's why I always tell people, if you do nothing else, contribute to the docs, right? Because that is so important for everybody, all of us. Anyway, but so I sat down with somebody there and we talked a little bit about that. But I know that he also worked through and there were several working sessions happening off to the side along the lines of the various projects of people who were like, oh, let me go like do this thing, or like, oh, turns out I can go like open a GitHub issue for this issue or what have you. Or just like I mentioned at the Argo booth, somebody was asking questions actually about Argo workflows. And so the people who were at the booth happened to be like Christian and Dan. Love them. They know Argo CD better. So
Hmm.
I actually took the questions for Argo workflows just because I happened to be there, even though I'm not an Argo maintainer. And it's that community aspect of sitting down with each other and working through and helping each other with the problem solving or whatever you have going on, answering the questions, lending expertise. I don't call myself an expert, just somewhat well-informed person. Like that's really the whole thing. And then, that, yeah, Project Pavilion was really, really like, it was a very happening place. I happily spent a few hours over there,
That's awesome.
and did not run out of things to do. Oh, I forgot to talk about the Clash Loop Backoff, which is so cool. Clash Loop Backoff is a bit of a game they run, and they did this at the Project Pavilion in the middle of the day, one of the days. CNCF runs it, and they basically give you they give like a challenge. They give a challenge to like the audience members who sat down with laptops and like, hey, in the 15 minutes we have for a prize, I forgot what the prize was. Who cares? I'm sure the winners care. In the 15 minutes you have for a prize, go like stand up a cluster kind or something and give us the ability to run a command against your cluster from our computers, right? I don't have time to talk about the approaches to that. I don't know if it was recorded. There are some pretty interesting solutions that happened though. And unfortunately, what people found is they were using their corporate laptops, so they were like completely successful, and then corporate firewall rules blocked it. And I think those people were given a win or a nod anyway, because it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
your technical implementation was exactly perfect. You did it in under 15 minutes. That's like incredible. because it's not a quick time to turn around and do that, especially when you don't know what the challenge is going to be ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right. Corporate firewall rules. We don't want you doing or violating those. We don't want you to go work around that. Good job. And so that was hosted. Usually it's hosted by Jeffy Sika of the CNCF, formerly of Red Hat. I think he had to do something else, so it was George Castro of the CNCF, and then Christoph Blecker, who's here at Red Hat. They hosted that, and they were that was very fun. I sat back and watched. I didn't have my laptop with me. I don't bring my laptop with me around KubeCon, because the temptation to open it and do work while I'm sitting in the sessions and so forth is very high.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not why I'm there. So if you see me around KubeCon, if I have a computer, it's because I need it for my slides because I'm presenting. But I try to not have my computer with me when I am attending so that I can be completely present in the moment. This doesn't help me remember things any better, but I take a lot of pictures.
Yeah, I do too.
So anyhow, I couldn't follow along with the challenge. I would have wanted to. Didn't have my laptop. Wasn't even aware it was going to happen until like a couple minutes before. So there you go. I guess I'm gonna go feed my cat now. Awesome. So yeah, we'll be back here in 2 weeks. What are we talking about in 2 weeks, Johnny? I forget.
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. Probably Argo 3. I think I'll probably just go ahead and do that while it's really relevant. Let me see if I can get a last minute speaker on. Plan on that, even if we don't have a last minute speaker on for it. We'll go over Argo 3 release notes, all the things they've added, all the things they're improving. Until then, I'll remind everybody to choose your tech debt wisely, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
See ya.
Bye-bye.